So we were looking on, as Mike was talking, we're looking on the screen of Luigi Mangione walking toward a transport van that was going to take him to 26 Federal Plaza. They're already downtown at the Wall Street heliport. You see a lot of people wearing FBI, NYPD. That's the Joint Terrorist Task Force. They work together, members of the NYPD Detective Bureau and members of the FBI work together, and that was put together after 9/11, the Joint FBI NYPD Terrorist Task Force. And the NYPD detectives are deputized as federal marshals so that they can also go into any state in the United States and have police powers. So really excellent unit, and it's a great idea because there is a lot of underlying animosity between the two agencies, the NYPD and the FBI. And to point that out, maybe some politicians would deny that it's absolutely 100% true. And but it's a good thing that the NYPD and the FBI does have this joint terrorist task force. Professor Detective Phil.
He promoted me last week. Now I'm a professor. Listen, real quick. Pauline Rabbi in the chat says, kind of like a Charles Manson followers. Mm-hmm. Think about that. This is the 2024 version of Charles Manson's family. If people are standing behind this coward, because he is a coward, he's a killer. It's disgusting. It's terrible to think that there are people standing with signs saying "Free Luigi" and standing behind him online. Trying to give him support. I believe there was a GoFundMe page which had about $100,000 raised in a short period of time for his defense. I think that was taken down, but we can't, as a society, condone any type of violence, specifically murder. Walking up to an individual at 6:44 in the morning and pumping bullets into his back. It's just not who we are as a country, who we are as a civilization. We're a civilized country, and we cannot have this kind of behavior. There's no reason, and I get the outrage. I get the frustration. Personally, I've never felt an insurance company turning me down for healthcare. However, I do sympathize with those people, but you cannot have a Wild West atmosphere where you're going to shoot someone in this particular case, in the back like that. Very cowardice. We talked about it before. There's ways of having your voice heard, electing the politicians that are going to fight for you, protest, letter writing. We talked about that before. And, it's a little frustrating when you know from a law enforcement perspective, as we do from this show, how things go and, right from wrong. And then you would think that there would be so much of an atmosphere or a belief that, this guy belongs in jail for what he did. He took the life of an innocent human being. And, that person, the family is going to suffer, the children, the wife, the other family members. There's never going to be closure for them. And you may think he's responsible, Brian Thompson, that is, for maybe turning down people's health care or whatever. However, there's another way to get justice in that regard. This is not the way for justice. This was an injustice that was done to him, and his family and his friends are going to have to live with that for the rest of their lives. And unfortunately, there's another victim, Luigi's family. His family and friends are going to have to live with this, and it's terrible on both ends. There's losers on both ends, and we have to do better as a society, as a nation, to not support this type of stuff.
Absolutely. Richard W. from the chat, if you want to understand it, I think you need to go back a little further than the 1960s, like to the French Revolution. Well, possibly. There's always been a radical thought. There's always been people that have acted upon radical thought. People have suggested that violence can change things very quickly. And there's some truth to that. However, it's not the right way to try to change things, to use violence. And I think we're right-minded people, righteous people, I think, were horrified by this assassination. Professor Mike.
Yeah, Bill, there's no excuse for it. We've talked about this. You can say, okay, you can justify this one because Mr. Thompson stood for something bad. Well, what about an individual doctor, an individual nurse? What about a judge in a case? What about a police officer? What about a person who owns a car company, you know, the CEO of Ford or anything like that? You start going down the slippery slope. At some point, you're going to say, well, no, we can kill these people, but we can't kill that person. But that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's either absolutely right, and then you have anarchy, or it's absolutely wrong, and we settle our differences and fix things in society through legal means and through, you know, nonviolent means. This is sad. It's sad. Everybody loses. Everybody loses when there's this sort of action. Nobody wins. The people who are going to get a tattoo with his name on it and his face on it, and the word deny, delay, whatever, you know, 5 years from now, are you going to feel the same way? Like, you know, point to your arm and say, look, I'm so proud of this. What are you doing? Like, people need to keep their perspective on life, and they get carried away emotionally with this, this murder means something special. It's not a murder. It's a righteous termination of someone's life. Really? Like, you know, it's really sad. There's nowhere to go with this. There's nowhere to go with this if you think this is a good thing. It's really sad.
Absolutely.